Hi, everyone. Amy Lessinger, president of REMAX here, and welcome to the Power Play. This is a broadcast that we wanted to bring to you to bring year-end tactics so that you finish the year strong. So why are we doing this? First of all, we know that the market has been very challenging out there and that things are changing a little bit. We're seeing a little bit of a reprieve on interest rates, and also we're seeing inventory come into the market, which means that the market conditions this fall stand to be better than they've been for a little while. And so that means that we have to get really tactical, really strategic, and really focused on the things that we do to help you finish the year strong. And so, what do we see ahead? Well, I just said it, interest rates are easing and inventory is rising. The other thing that I'm really focused on right now is the fact that $80 trillion is scheduled to be deployed into the US economy to the next two generations, which equal about 175 million in population. So, what does that mean? It means over the next 20 years, there's going to be an abundance of buyers that come into the market. But it also means we have a little bit of a gap. We have a gap between the fact that the average agent is 57 years old and your typical buyer is going to be a first-time buyer or perhaps a move-up buyer. And so how do those buyers want to transact? They want to transact a little bit differently. And it's up to us to make sure that we level up our skill set and that we make sure that we are performing our absolute best and delivering the best customer experience that we possibly can. And we're transacting how that generation wants to transact, which is literally over their phone. And so that's where your tech stack and everything that we have offered to you to help elevate that customer experience, my ask of this network and of everyone here is to lean in. It is designed to position you out front. It is designed to help you facilitate that transaction in a way that consumers want to transact. So you need to lean in there. And then we've got some really special guests today because one thing we know for sure is that the beauty of our network is the best ideas come from the field always. And we know that you want to learn from our best and our brightest. And so we have four incredible panelists here today to share with you how they plan to finish the year strong, how they're navigating market changes, and overall share their best strategies. And who's here with me but Ben Fairfield. He is our Vice President of Recruiting and Retention. And so, Ben, why don't you introduce our guests and we can kick this off because I know our audience wants to hear from them.
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy. All right, I'm going to go right to our guests. Now, we've got four of our best agents in the network. These four are all our torchbearer agents, meaning they're some of the top agents in our network under 40 years old. And we just spent a couple of weeks ago with them, some time at Huntington Beach, masterminding with them as well as a lot of their peers. And these four stood out as ones we really wanted to hear more from. And our hope is that this helps you. So I want to introduce our panelists. Let's first go to Mr. Aaron Anderson. Aaron's in Idaho. Aaron, why don't you give everyone an idea of who you are, what specific city you're in, and how long you've been in the business?
Hey, absolutely. I appreciate that, Ben. Thank you for the introduction. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show, the podcast. It's an honor to be here. So I really do appreciate that. So my name is Aaron Anderson. I'm from Pocatello, Idaho. The brokers that I'm with is REMAX Country Real Estate. It's a fabulous place as far as where that is in the state of Idaho. It's in an amazing spot. It's about 2 hours north of Salt Lake City, Utah. It's about 3 to 3.5 hours, depending on how fast or slow you're driving, to Sun Valley, Idaho. It's about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive to West Yellowstone and about a 2 to 2.5 hour drive to Jackson Hole to the Grand Tetons. So as far as recreation opportunities, as far as having a great balance of life, this small community in Pocatello, where we have a population of about 65 to 75,000 people, give or take, it's a really great spot to be because there's so many great places at your fingertips.
That's awesome. And I love that you shared that too, because you're doing a remarkable business in an area with 60,000 people. So I want people to keep that in mind too, because that'll come into play as we carry on the conversation. All right, now I'm going to go to Laura. Now, Laura and I've been connected on social media for some time. We just met for the first time at Huntington Beach in person, which was really cool. But Laura, tell us where you are, who you're with, and what areas you serve.
Hi, I'm Laura Wynn with REMAX Territory in Yuma, Arizona. We're at the border where California and Arizona meets. Very touristy. We have two military bases here, about 200,000 people. Um, lots of retirees, but a lot of families moving in. We see all over the country coming here because it is affordable. But we have lots of fishing and boating. Um, we're located near lakes, but lots of families moving in the area, lots of retirees. Um,
Great.
That's awesome. And you're helping a lot of them, which is really, really cool. Congratulations. All right,
mhm.
I'm going to go to Landon. Now, Landon, we were just joking before we got on air here. Landon's actually calling in not too far from headquarters here because he's in the Denver area. So, Landon, tell them who you are and where you serve and what company you're with.
That's right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I am with REMAX Professionals, and I am here in the Denver metro greater area. I live in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, which is like 20 minutes south of Denver, and grew up in Littleton, which is another suburb of Denver. And so you've got towns like Castle Rock, Parker, Colorado, that are all kind of in that general area that we work all the time. We also stretch down to the Springs, so we do a little bit in Colorado Springs, and then all the Denver metro area is where I work.
Nice.
Great. Awesome. All right. Last but certainly not least, an alumni of my school, my college, go UND. Brianna, tell everyone where you are because you don't live there anymore, near there, but where you are, what market you serve, and which company you're with.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I am a fighting Sioux just like Ben from the University of North Dakota, but I live nowhere near there anymore. I am in Dallas, Texas. And in Dallas, we have a lot of people relocating. We are one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the country. And so we've got tons of out of state clients moving into Dallas.
You know, one thing I want to add about this powerhouse group is our torchbearers, as we said, we just gathered. Their average
Yeah.
gross commissions, $386,000, and they are all under 40. And they're the top 5 in all 50 states, including Canada and their provinces. So an amazing, amazing group. So they've got lots to share and lots to teach.
Absolutely. And we're going to jump into it because we've got a lot of questions we want to ask. We're going to try to get as many in the time remaining that we have. So I'm gonna start. Last is now the first. So I'm going to go to Brianna. I'm going to give you this one first. So Amy talked about the fact that the market has changed. We've got lots of change happening in the market. Question for you is what tools or systems are you using to keep up to date with all of this, with all these changes, so that you're ahead of this for your clients? You can be the resource for them on knowing what's heads and tails of all these changes that are happening. What are you using to do that?
Well, I think it's super important that we are excellent students for our clients. And so I am so grateful to have an incredible broker, Mark Wolf. He's previously broker of the year not too long ago for all of Remax. And he does an excellent, excellent job of making sure that we are really up to date. And but I think that it's our responsibility to do even more than that rather than just receive. And so I am constantly asking this question of my lenders, any lenders that I work with, understanding how are they seeing and viewing the changes and what's happening and what's to come. And then I think it's important to subscribe to great news outlets, whether they're local, like your local business journal, or some solid national ones as well.
Awesome. That's great. Aaron, how about you? How are you staying ahead of this? How are you keeping on top of news and being able to be that resource and disseminate that to your clients?
So that's a really great question. I mean, as far as getting that information out to my clients, for me, even though I'm a newer agent, I got licensed in at the beginning of 2021. I'm really kind of an old school agent. I love the face to face interaction. I love the one-to-one phone calls. I love social media, don't get me wrong. I feel like, the fact that you can make a post or a story or a reel on Instagram or on Facebook and reach hundreds, if not thousands of people, I think is phenomenal. But for me, where I really have success building relationships and getting information to my clients is just that face-to-face interaction. So in a town of, 60 to 75,000 people, give or take, again, if you incorporate Chubbuck, which is just outside of Pocatello, if you include that, it's really fairly easy to get around town. I mean, from my house or really from anywhere in Pocatello to the nearest, well, the only Costco in town, it's about a 10-minute drive, 8 to 10 minute drive. So if I'm out doing errands, if I'm out for listing appointments, if I'm out, um, I guess at the end of the day, showing buyers properties, things like that, I always try to make a stop. If I can make a stop to visit a client, if I could talk to them, and I always try to get to their concerns because everybody, and this is something that we talked about at the Torchbearer event, it seems like everybody has questions and everybody has some concerns. And so we need to be the masters of trying to get that information to them and answer those questions that maybe aren't answered. And so for me, again, I really think that my approach is typically the old school approach, where I really try to get information to my people in a one-to-one, face-to-face type of interaction.
That's great. Yeah, that's it's absolutely key, and we heard that lots at the Torchbearer. And so I want to kind of pivot. That's a natural transition point because I know all of you do a really great job with your database or your sphere of influence, whatever you want to call it. But you have a core group of people that you really take care of, you communicate with, you market to. So Laura, I want to go to you. What are you seeing in has changed, or maybe it hasn't changed? Are you doing something different, or going back to what you used to do in terms of how are you really serving your sphere of influence in your database in this market?
Um, so I make it a point daily to keep in contact with my local sphere. So that includes lenders, vendors, and you know, your most trusted clients. So they are your source of new clientele. So I like to read up on keeping current matters. We do that once a month in our office just to stay in touch with our market and stay updated. Text messages on a daily to your clients in your sphere. So that's typically how I keep in touch with my clients.
Stay in really high contact. Okay,
Yes,
great.
exactly.
All right. Now let's see, Landon, how about you? Because I know you've got a great database as well. What are you doing in terms of leveraging that group, both to serve them, but also to build your business at the same time?
Yeah, no, I think your database is your gold mine, and like focusing on the top 50 in your database, I think is huge to be able to just go deep with them because they're the top 50 people that are supporting your business the most, right? You can't treat them all equal. They're the one, and I mean that by like you're going to spend a little more time and attention on the people that are helping your business the most, and you have to be strategic like that. And so, like inviting those people to lunch, going deeper with them, understanding what's going on in their lives, and real estate's just going to come up in those conversations. But I think having a couple lunch appointments a week with your top 50 is huge, and then spraying wide with social media. And I started a podcast a year ago to try to educate people on what's going on in the market and talk about other fun things that are happening in my city and stuff like that. So we've definitely made an emphasis to go deep but also go wide with our relationships.
That's great. All right. Now, Brianna, I want to go to you because what we also know, and Amy touched on this in the beginning as well, rates, while they've come down a little bit, they're still higher than where they have been historically the last few years. And so we know that's put a squeeze a little bit on some of the buyer traffic. Also, we see pricing holding and kind of being stubborn in that sense. And so, how are you going about finding listings and listing inventory before you're having to compete for it? What are you doing to go find those listings before your competitors even know about those potential opportunities?
I love that question. I think networking is something that is so important to be successful in our jobs. And I think that it took me a few years in this role to really understand the importance of networking with my peers and networking with the other agents local in my market. There is a gold mine there. And so, I mean, I'm in a few networking groups where we bring things to each other, um, and help each other out in that way. I will also search if I've got somebody that I know what they're looking for is hard to find, and it's in a specific neighborhood in Dallas that I know a lot hits, before ever gets on the market. I go fishing. I look up who are the agents that have sold in this price point in this neighborhood in the past 2 years, and I call all of them and work that networking, and I've definitely found success there, and I think it's just us going the extra mile, right? Like, the breadcrumbs are there for us to go find and pick it up. It just takes some extra effort and some extra work.
Love that. Yes, you have a lot of intention. That's what I remember hearing from you at Torchbearers too. Everything you're doing has intention. I think that's true for all the guests as well. So, Aaron, what about you? Now, you're in a little bit smaller market. You're not DFW, right? So you're a little bit smaller
Right.
market. How are you finding listings? How are you getting listings when some other agents, let's be honest, are complaining about listing inventory being tough to find and they're really struggling to compete? How are you finding those listings?
So absolutely, that's a great question. So going back to databases, if I could just for a minute, I want to touch on that, and then I want to talk about mom groups. And I don't know if the audience or if you guys can see the picture behind me of my family, but my wife, she's up there. And I think that she's really key. And her sister, my sister-in-law, she lives in town as well, but they are really key at getting into these mom groups and providing me with referrals. And so every week, they go out to lunch together. There's probably a group of about 8 to 12 of them or so. And so they're talking about, different things that are, of course, important to them, and real estate always seems to come up. And so it seems like every week I get an update from my wife and from my sister-in-law on who wants to buy, whether that's a primary home or an investment property, or who wants to sell. So I think just kind of keeping up with your neighborhood, keeping up with the community is a great thing to do, and just to really be actively involved within the community. The other thing is, as far as the clientele that I work with and the database that I have, I typically have a hot list and a warm list and a cold list. And so the people that are on my hot list, these are people that are wanting to buy, or these are people that have mentioned to me that they may want to sell. And so these are people that I'm typically trying to stay in contact with every week. So whether it's a phone call or an email or a text message, or a stop by a face-to-face interaction, I'm trying to keep up with the people that are on my hot list every single week. The people that are on the warm list, which of course are the people that I'm trying to transition from warm to hot, those people I typically try to keep in touch with about once a month or so. And then I have a cold list. So people that I've either worked with before in the past, or people that are renting. There's some people that move here. They take on a new job. They decide to rent for 6 months to a year. And so those are people, of course, that I keep on the cold list. And so I try to reach out to them about, say, 1 to 2 times a year. And so I think truly trying to be actively involved within the community is very, very important. There was a buyer that I got. So my oldest daughter, her name is Avery. She's a competitive dancer. She's 11 years old, and last year at the end of her dance class, they had a father-daughter dance class. And so me and a few of the other dads, we went there, of course, to show off our dance skills, right? And so at the end of the day, I got together with a couple of the dads, and we were just talking. I let them know that I'm a realtor with REMAX. And the dad that I was talking to, he was planning to list his house in a couple weeks. He already had a listing agent, but he said, "Hey, I actually need someone to help me to purchase a property." And so this was about an hour away from where we live in Pocatello. And he said that his listing agent that he hired doesn't go that far north. And so he asked if I do. And I said, "Absolutely, I do." And so just by being out in the community, attending practices for my kids, different events, things like that, you get to know people. And that, I think, is where you really get to figure out who wants to buy, who wants to sell, is being actively involved.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing you and Brianna both say, it's a both with intention. You're not waiting
Oh,
for it to come
absolutely.
to you. You're going out there and making it happen instead of sitting waiting for them to call you, because that can be a lonely place to sit in the office waiting for the phone to ring. So you're both being very intentional, which I love to hear. Laura, how about you? Because I know you do a great job here as well, but I'd love to hear, what are you doing maybe that hasn't been mentioned that's a little bit different?
Well, I am a newer agent too. I won't hit my 3-year mark till the end of October. So I have tried everything, back to the basics, doing open houses 3 times a week, expos and local events. I do get quite a lot of leads from them, and I find most of the time buyers are just really scared. They don't know the process. So buyer consultations is what I'm really good at. I sit them down and figure out what exactly is their problem, what they are scared of, and find that pinpoint, solve it, and I get a ton of referrals from that. So
That's
that
awesome.
makes us a success too, is to solving problems.
Well, I love that you said that, because we have a part of our studio audience here is a group that I've been with the last couple of days, and one thing we've said a couple times is what's old has become new again, right? They're not reinventing new things. And you said open houses, and that actually came up a lot at torchbearers as well. And you could see some people's eyes roll, but then you see the other people going, "Yes," because they know we're going back to that place. So really quickly, I want to dive a little deeper here. You're doing open houses. Can you just a Reader's Digest version, just tell me, what do you do to prepare for the open house, and how do you hold it? Because you're getting good results from it. I'm assuming you're not just throwing up a sign and hoping people walk in. What do you do to make sure it's a successful event for you?
Great question. So I really do like systems and processes. So I created a system on Trello. Um, you can use that to organize your strategy. So a month ahead, if you have a listing that long, or 3 weeks prior to, you're going to set up signs. In those locations, drop a map exactly where those signs are going to be. Those are very, very important. You want as many signs as possible. You're going to create flyers and pass them out all over town. That includes grocery stores. But social media is a really big one. So Facebook Marketplace, blast it all over your MLS listings. Just have them blasted out, but there needs to be a strategy for that 3 weeks ahead of time.
Love that. Yeah, so you're very prepared. Again, very intentional. You're seeing a theme here,
Yep.
right? What we do might be different, but there's a lot of intention behind what you do.
I
Landon,
think I see too, if I can
yeah,
add really quick, I see systems.
yeah,
You all have a system for making sure that you are consistent in your outreach, because I think that's something that is really, really key, is just these spurts of activity really don't position you, with your sphere of influence as a consistent professional. And so what I hear from this group is routine, systems, and constant outreach over the long haul.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important.
All right, Landon, I want to get your take on this. I know you probably have a little bit different system that you work or a strategy you use. What would you say from your perspective in your business, your market?
Yeah. So as you know, in Denver, we are in a growth market, right? So we tend to grow on average about 7% per year. And the last 2 years have been flat, just really flat. And so with that being said, homeowners aren't that excited about their home value right now because we haven't grown a whole lot. And so if since we haven't grown a ton, you can't do like the, hey, here's your value of your home and get them excited about their home to sell like we could in 2021. And so what I've tried to do is get very specific about what I'm telling my people, right? So when I make my calls, I'll do a list of like assumable loans in our market, and the assumable loans in our marketplace that are existing. There's about 50 in Denver right now. If I have a list of 50 homes that have an assumable rate in the twos or the threes, and I dangle that out in front of my database and say, hey, check these options out, because I don't know how many times I've reached out to my top 50 or my people that I talk to all the time. And they're like, yeah, I would move. Like I have a need, but I don't want to pay $1,000 more a month, for just a little more house or whatnot. But if they could do an assumable loan, and we've closed a couple this year that
Mm.
have really, helped, but it's all about like being specific. And the house, when you fall in love with a home, that's the most exciting part of real estate, and what really inspires a move a lot of times. They have to have a need, but really they're not that interested, or they don't even know they're interested. I've moved twice personally, and I didn't even know I wanted to move because we found the right house,
Yeah.
right? And so that strategy has really helped me, because until you start to find a need and then like actually just send like one home at a time to people, right? Or an attractive list like that of like 50 assumable loans in your market. Like, what do you think of these? Like that really resonates with people and gets them to take action.
Yeah, there again, you're bringing opportunity to your people. You're not passive. You all are being very proactive and active in this and looking for ways to help your people accomplish their goals. Amy, you had a question.
Landon, I love the assumable loan, comment and strategy. That is, just absolute gold. It's something that I started talking about when the market started shifting and interest rates started changing. So to see that being deployed and actively used, I think it's a really big key. And it doesn't work in every situation. Sometimes they're sitting in just a huge equity position that the buyer can't compete with. But nonetheless, it's a tremendous strategy to engage your network and maybe pique some interest and get people off the fence. That's awesome. Um, I want to switch gears because we talked a lot about your strategies for outreach, et cetera. But here's what I know: to be as productive as this group is, it takes being efficient, it takes automation, and truly, that's where tech comes into the picture. We all know about the surge of AI. I happen to be a very big fan of AI. I said it to the group yesterday morning. I just said, listen, I do not believe that tech or, AI in particular is going to replace, agents out there. But I do believe that agents who don't use technology and do not use AI probably will be replaced. And so it's up to us to make sure that we are elevating our skill set on all fronts. And so this is a great group to talk to. I'll start with you, Brianna. How are you leveraging tech to automate, do more in less time, and make sure that you are positioned in the market appropriately?
Yeah, over the past few years, that has been my constant focus is how do I do more with less time? And I somehow keep finding ways to do much, much, much more with less time. Um, Tech is a big part of that, and then the right people are the other part of that. And just like you mentioned, Amy, hey, if we're not using as realtors, if we're not using tech, we're gonna get left behind. Man, isn't that true for so many industries, right? And we are definitely included in that. And so I've learned so much from the torchbearers group of ways that I can use AI to much more. It's much more than just writing emails, right? I used to think, okay, yeah, when I have a hard time writing an email or maybe writing a blog post, AI can help me. It is so much more than that. An idea that was shared that I'll share here. This is not, I will not take credit. This is Nicole Service's idea in Seattle. She uploads appraisal reports as she receives them so that her chat GPT will learn how an appraiser values a property, and then when she needs to price a property for her seller, she can upload some comparable sales and it can give her a good starting point of how to price that property far beyond a price per square foot, but using all the adjustments and doing that in far less time than sitting and pouring over and doing it 100% from scratch. Of course, we need to still put some human touch into it. But that, I mean, that's one of the many ways. And I think that the wealthiest people in the room are going to be the ones that are continually recognizing patterns and then figuring out how to solve for that in any area of your life, but especially in your business. And I constantly am looking of how can I improve a process, and plays a big part in how are we executing on this new process that we've created day in and day out, and how can my staff we use like implement these processes that we are deciding to move forward with.
That's an incredible example of how AI can be a collaborative partner with you, but it doesn't replace your local knowledge, your skill, and your understanding that you gain from being out in the market and actively selling on a routine basis. But it is literally kind of automating the process of doing the analysis and the work with your double checking it and vetting it and making sure that it is sound. It's really
Exactly.
allowing you to do more in less time and probably in a much more deliberate way as opposed to the manual. So, Laura, how about you? How are you utilizing tech to do more in less time and or sell more homes every year?
Well, I work a lot with buyers, and I really like that KV Core actually added the AI feature
Hmm.
to their system. It actually saved me a lot of time because it'll catch when a buyer's commenting or messaging me in the middle of the night. I could respond to it in the morning. So that's one way that I use the AI. I found it really helpful.
That's great. I love it. How about you, Erin? How are you using tech or AI to do more in less time or generate more closings?
So yeah, that's a great question. So I would say something that I haven't used unfortunately yet, just haven't had the opportunity, but I'm really excited about Folio. So I don't know if the audience there has
Hmm.
heard much about Folio, but just today um, we had an office meeting, staff meeting, where we've got about 50 agents or so in our office. And so I talked to them about Folio. It seemed like most of them were pretty excited about it. I mean, just the fact that, we have an opportunity to have different folders of our transactions be automatically organized by I think is great, and that those types of timelines and different things can show up automatically on a calendar too. I think is great. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to use that. As far as other tech platforms, I mean, social media is something that I really love. When we were at the Torchbearer event, there was somebody I can't remember who it was. I think it was the guy out of Florida. Can't remember his name, but he said that he typically gets on the post about 4 to 7 times a day. I think is what he said. For me, I'm typically not posting that much, and I think it's a combination, right? I think it's a combination of posts and stories and reels and different things. And the whole purpose of that is you want to be top of mind as a realtor. Um, because if I sell a home to somebody and say they want to buy again in a year or so, but I have not reached out to them a year, but they're friends, with 5 different realtors on social media platforms, those realtors are going to be top of mind for my client. So there's a really good chance that I may miss out the opportunity to list another home or to work with that client again, just because I'm not the realtor that's top of mind. And so I think to utilize social media, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, I think continually striving to make those posts and those stories and those reels are very important. And then on top of that, I think the engagement is very valuable too. For me, I don't necessarily claim to understand the algorithms there for social media platforms, but I do know that your posts are seen more and more the more that you engage with your audience.
Great, thank you. And Landon, I know this is, near and dear to your heart, so blow us away because you're really, really up to speed on this front.
Yeah, I think the platform of video is so powerful. And so a couple things like I have a videographer every 2 weeks that I meet with to shoot videos, and I've got it set up. I just shopped around until I could find somebody that would not charge me per video, that would just charge me for a 4 hour block of time and let me do unlimited videos and edit them for me. And it got someone that works well. And so every 2 weeks I meet with them, I batch a bunch of videos together, and then we schedule those out on Hootsuite. And Hootsuite is a platform that will allow you to send it out to LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, like all the sites that you want to simultaneously, right, each day. And so it's awesome. You can plan your whole month on Hootsuite of what you send out. And so we also do. I use a gimbal, just a DJI like gimbal, to go through and do property tours on homes. And I'll do like an intro selfie of me talking about the home, walk through the home, and we try to time it to be like a TED talk, like 18 minutes long. Seems like a really long time, but people are actually watching these long form videos that are full of SEO content. So I'm like talking about, if you're moving to Denver, if you have thought about buying a 2 story in Highlands Ranch or whatever. I'm saying all these words that people might be typing on Google, right, as I'm talking. And since YouTube is owned, by Google, they're picking all of that up in searches, and it increases your ability to be found by people that are looking for your services in your local area. So I love that aspect of video. And then we just use another cool tool, AI tool. It's called Opus.ai. Cuts up your long form videos. So like if I do a podcast with my team, I've got 6 agents on my team. We do a podcast, and then we'll have um, Opus.ai cut up all of the best segments, and it'll tell you which ones are the most likely to go viral. And so if it can tell you like the top 10, then we schedule those out on Hootsuite to go onto our other accounts as short form, little minute or less clips that also get legs. So we get so much content from our long form content that turns into short form content and just makes my life easier, so that I don't have to wake up every day thinking about how am I going to produce content today.
Completely. And again, you're using AI as a partner, a collaborative partner that helps you get your message out, position, and do more in less time. So, just tremendous strategies, tips, ideas. So, obviously, if AI is of interest to you, you need to learn the pros and cons. Make sure you understand for privacy purposes what you would want to feed it, what you wouldn't want to feed it. There's rules to the road, but obviously the best way to learn something is to start using it and researching it and making sure that you're elevating your skill set because it's here to stay.
Yeah,
So Ben, you have another
absolutely.
question?
All right, so I got a question for everybody. And Brianna, I'm coming back to you because we're trying to ping pong all the way
Yes.
around here, all right? But here's what we know. I'm just going to level set here. I don't think it's going to be a surprise to everybody, but with the market being what it's being, days on market for our listings have gone up in most markets. Some no, but most markets, days on market's gone up a bit. I remember when we were first selling that if you could get it sold in 6 months, they'd almost throw a parade for you because you were a hero. And now we got agents, if it doesn't sell in 24 hours, they don't know what to do with themselves. So you're thinking about systems, thinking about you all are taking listings, you're finding inventory, you're creating inventory. What are you doing to set the standards and the expectations with your clients on the front end about how long this might take? And then how are you communicating through that process? What are you doing so that as it's taking longer, you have raving fans on the other side, but you're setting expectations on the front end? What does that look like for your business? Brianna.
I think this is something we just need to go back to basics on, right? There's nothing shiny and fancy about this. We just have to do a great job, and most of that is communication. So again, we need to be the best student, and we need to really understand the comps and really understand so that we can set proper expectation for our sellers, and that we're doing that up front. And then when they start panicking after 2 weeks on the market, even though you told them it was going to be the long run, we need to do a great job of continuing to educate them. So I do Tuesday update calls, and at the moment, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort because I have a lot of listings. It's taking a while for properties to move, but I actually record a video, a bomb video, and send it to every single client that has their property on the market every single Tuesday. I am pulling updated comps so that they can see and understand what's happening around them. Is there what is moving at what price point? How does that compare to us? What are average days on market overall? Right? Are we in the norm or are we not? Do we need to adjust? I'm giving them all the feedback that we've received on showings. I'm reminding them of it because they did receive it earlier. I'm giving it to them as soon as we have it. I'm giving them stats on, hey, what are our views on all these other websites? What does traffic look like? And then what do I suggest that we do? And really, it's like we're holding their hand, but consistently doing that every single week, and letting them know, hey, I'm here for you. Any questions or concerns, but please be assured we are doing everything that we can to find the right buyer for you.
Well, and I think one thing that you said there, Brianna, was that you are, holding their hand, but you are also reinforcing all of the professional services that you bring and that you give every single week. So you're reinforcing your value prop, which I think is really, really key to
Yeah.
that process.
I wrote down consistent. That's what I
Yes.
wrote down, Brianna, when you were talking. I think it's so
Yeah.
key because I think a lot of agents avoid the tough conversations. They may not know what to say. And what do I say to a seller when I call them and say, hey, no news, we haven't sold your house yet, congratulations. Like, you're not running away from that, you're running towards it and you're being consistent. And I think that's absolutely critical. It's key. It's what we used to do. And I agree with you totally. It's back to that basic concept and basic idea, but it's so relevant for agents to hear today. All right, Aaron, how about you? What about in your market area? How are you setting those expectations and how are you communicating with those people through a longer days on market schedule?
So yeah, that's a great question, Ben. I appreciate it. I'd say my tactic is always to under promise and over deliver. I think it's really important to set expectations, and I think um, just like Brianna was saying, I think consistency is obviously key. I think to be transparent is key. There was some statistic, and Amy, you could clarify this, but something to the effect like the number one attribute that, well, let's see, 91%, I think, of home buyers say that the attribute that they look for in a realtor is that they can trust them. And so I think that transparency, I think that trust, I think that consistency, I think that those things are all very important. And so for me, I feel like it is an important thing to know and to understand that you can challenge a client too. I've got several clients right now, and I don't know if this is just the Pocatello area or if this is, across the country. But if I do a CMA for a seller and we talk about pricing and everything, it is almost 100% of the time that the seller will come back and say, hey, let's go 10 grand higher. Let's go 20 grand higher. Let's go 50 grand higher. And so in those types of moments, I think in order to establish a good relationship of trust with the seller, even though they may not necessarily agree with you, I think that it's really important to be transparent and it's really important to challenge them. I mean, challenge them obviously in a good way, a professional way, and let them know, look, as far as all the comparables, and we're going off of comparable information here, this is where your home really should be if you want to sell it. But at the same time, sellers have different goals. Sometimes their goal is just to sell it fast. Sometimes their number one goal is just to get the most amount of profit. So it really depends on the goals, and so it's really important that you have those conversations up front. For me, I typically try to have clients come to my office. I like to have sit down conversations with them. Some agents don't prefer to do that. I like to have sit down conversations with both buyers and sellers. That way, we can set the expectations both on their end and on my end. Um, and again, I think that creates more transparency and that creates more trust. And I think that those are two of the most important things when it comes to a real estate transaction and working with both buyers and sellers.
Well, I think you brought up a good point there, Aaron. Trust. It is the number one reason that both buyers and sellers select their agent. And guess what? REMAX agents are voted the most trusted by consumers out there. And do you think there might be just a little bit of confusion out in the market right now? Do you think that maybe agents' reputations might have taken a little bit of a hit given all the headlines and all the confusion? The fact that you're with REMAX and that consumers have voted us most trusted matters. So double down on that. And I really like what you talked about there, Aaron. I think really, really important. So
Absolutely. Laura, how about you? What are you doing to maintain that trust and have that communication long term to make sure we have got raving fans on the other side of the transaction?
Well, I like to make phone calls and make sure that my sellers are aware of what's going on in the market on a weekly basis. So if we get feedback for that showing, they're notified right away. And if it's something that we can change, then I think it's a good investment. It helps them sell it quicker. My job is to solve the problem, and the problem is either its price or its exposure. So I I'm going to expose it as much as possible. But if feedback is the price or something that we can change in the home, then I can definitely figure that out for them.
I love that. You're looking to solve problems. You're bringing solutions, which I think is absolutely right. And it's just amazing how much it's changed, but how much it stays the same. And here we are back to where a lot of us were when we first started back in this business. So I love that. Landon, how about you? What are you doing in that process for your clients and your business?
My dad told me a long time ago the number one trait in a listing agent for a successful listing agent is self confidence, and I've never needed it more than right now because we just came off of like the slowest week of showings in our market. It was horrendous, and so I think that like having a lot of confidence, telling people that hey, this is what the market is telling us, right? And like having the market be not the bad guy, right? But like it's the market that dictates what you're going to make in the market and how you're going to sell what you're going to sell for. And so helping them understand that. And then I think like a dialogue that I use that really helps me on listing presentations is just I tell people, I just say, you know what, I'm going to do my best because there's an art to this and there's a science to it, right? The science is all the homework that I've done to prepare your home and make it, so we're making adjustments on all these comps. The art is how someone feels as they walk through your home, and that's created by emotion. And so I'll tell people that I'm going to try to nail it on price, right? The best that I can based on what I see, based on art and science, right? But if we're getting, and I'll tell them a certain number, I'll say with your price point, if we're only getting 2 showings a week, then it's probably a 1% adjustment. We're close if that's happening. If we're getting no showings, then it could be a 2% adjustment or more. And we're going to be talking about it every 10 days. I want to be having that conversation so that we can not lose track of days on market and be that house that everyone's wondering what's the problem with that house. And sellers really resonate with that, like they get it. And if it's calculated and they're counting the showings as they happen during the weeks that are the first weeks on the market, then they're like, oh boy, he's going to call and ask for a price, and they're expecting it, right? They
Yeah.
know it's coming because I set that expectation up front.
I think it's so key. Again, all of you are saying somewhat similar things, but you all have your own nuance to it. But you're running towards the conversation that I would argue a lot of agents are running away from. And we know that the clients really just want to know what to expect, and you do a great job of setting that. So I want to switch gears here as we're kind of at the tail end of our time together. Unfortunately, we could talk all day, but I want to bring a couple more things to the forefront and get your take on it. Here's the first one. You talked about the fact we all know it's end of year here. We're coming to the sunset of 2024. We're in preparation for 2025. We've still got rates that are higher than where we'd like them, but they look like they're going to be coming down. We're hopeful that inventory will start to bump up a bit. So we see some positive signs on the forefront and in the near future. What are you doing right now in your business? If you had to give everybody listening your top one or two things that you'd suggest they don't do anything else until they do these one or two things in order not only to finish this year strong, but to have great momentum going into 2025, what would your top one or two things you'd say that you're absolutely sold out on your doing and you think everyone else should do? Brianna, let's go to you first.
And this might not be like the specific tactic that you're looking for, but my number one thing is do not take your foot off the gas.
Love that.
Do not. Do not throw your hat in if you aren't going to hit your goals this year and say, I'll start over in January, because you're going to be behind if you decide you're going to start over in January. break I'm a coach and I have a student. I was talking to her about this just yesterday and I said, "Hey, let's just break it down to the months that we have left of this year. And instead of looking at this great big goal that you think is impossible to hit, we're going to break it down to what's your goal for next month and your goal for the following month. And we're going to do everything we can to reach that." That's my number one. Like, don't take your foot off the gas.
That's awesome. And it's so true. Now, that's the other deal on it. Brianna, I'm sorry, I'm not done with you yet. You're not off the hook yet. But here's the deal. We know that a lot of agents, they start taking vacation about the week before Thanksgiving, and then we are hoping to see them after New Year, right? I know none of these people on this call or anyone watching, but some agents, that's kind of the way they do the fall. So what you're saying is you're going to take some time with family, but if you haven't hit your goal, you're still doing the things because you're probably going to have a higher rate of catching people at home. Would you agree with that?
Almost. I wouldn't almost. Even if I have hit my goal, I'm still gonna keep pounding it and keep my foot on the gas.
Love
Not
that.
only if I haven't hit my goal,
I have a
Okay.
because
quick
we're just
story
gonna
about
set the
this.
goals higher.
I love that.
I love that.
To your point, you're
Even
absolutely
higher.
right. Keep pushing. That's one of the reasons you're on this call. So thank
Yep.
you, Amy.
I have a quick story about this. I was a young agent. I had worked really hard. I had a great, great year. And I went, you know what? I just need a break. I need time off. I took December off. How long do you think it took me until my business recovered?
2 or 3 months.
March.
Yep.
So
yeah.
don't go there. I learned that lesson the hard way. It was a very hard lesson.
All right, Aaron, what about you? One or two things you'd say everyone should absolutely consider doing to finish the year strong and start 2025 off with tons of momentum?
Hey, so that's a great question. I mean, I agree 100% with Brianna. I think the best advice that you can give to any agent and to set yourself apart from every other agent in your MLS is to don't let up. I mean, don't let up. Don't take your foot off the gas. I totally agree with that. For me, again, I'm going to go back to my old school mentality. I love that face to face interaction. I love events. At our brokerage, we just had a big customer appreciation event. I love those types of events and I get the word out to all my clients and then they show up. And then it's great for me because then I don't have to make a lot of stop buys. I don't have to make a lot of phone calls because they're actually coming to me. And so something that was discussed at the Torchbearer event, at least at our table that we're at, is just coming up with different ideas for events to bring people to us. And I loved an idea that somebody had. They said that every spring they do like a spring cleaning event where they rent a dumpster and then they go out amongst their neighborhood. They knock doors or they create flyers, however they do it. They market this to bring people to them. And they said, "Hey, I got this dumpster for a weekend or for a week. It's yours to use. So feel free to come by to bring your trash, dump it." And then the hope is, of course, is that this agent who lives at that house where the dumpster's sitting out in front of, is that they have an opportunity to interact with these people. And so I think having those types of events that are kind of catered to you. There was another idea about having a food truck. Think of the most sensationalized food that is in your community that exists by way of food truck. Have an event, whether it's a holiday like Halloween or Valentine's Day, or something like that, that gets people kind of excited, and have an event outside of your house, and then invite a food truck to come over, hire them to come out, have food because people always come for food. And again, that gives you a chance to interact with people in your neighborhood. That gives you a chance to really interact with people in your community. So again, for me, it might just be because of the smaller market that I'm in, but the whole face-to-face interaction is something that is very key for me because for me, my business is all about building relationships and making those relationships deep and meaningful. And I feel like just focusing on social media, it helps, of course, but it doesn't necessarily build a relationship. And so I would say when times are a little bit slower, because in our market they definitely are slower come the tail end of Q3 and in Q4, that's where you want to really hit the pavement. That's where you want to go out, have those face-to-face interactions, make those phone calls, plan events, whether it's a brokerage event or an individual event for yourself and your clients and customers. But if you do those things, I think that that's going to help you to really have a great springboard into Q1 of 2025.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think one other thing that kind of approach, the food truck idea or the event idea does, at least for me, I'm sure no one else had this problem, but I wasn't great at keeping in touch with all of my database like I probably should have been. And so those events gave me an opportunity to kind of catch back up with those people who maybe it had been a month or two too long but since I last spoke with them, to get back in touch. And Q4 is a great time to do that, to your point, to really get things moving, build those relationships back up, make those deposits in those relationship banks, and get ready for a great year
Absolutely.
ahead. So I love that you said that. All right, Laura, how about you? One or two things you would do right now, finish the year strong, start next year even stronger.
So I do like to do events too. We do neighborhood appreciation events and expos. We're with the chamber, and what I like to do is lean into the holidays and send out text messages. It's more personal, and usually get really good response from that, and it starts conversations with people. And I feel those one-on-one conversations, it's much better in person. So inviting them to those events, but lean into the holidays.
Absolutely. Leverage that season. I love that. All right, Landon, how about you?
All right, I'm gonna get kind of serious for a second. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
My here, I think the number one thing that you will only like rise up to the level of your focus. And I just think like distractions are everybody's worst nightmare right now, and there's so many of them. So it's for me, it's more of a mindset thing. Like defend your power hour like it is your vitality. Like that is the most important part of the day. And what I mean by that is like this is so scary, right? But like go on airplane mode and use your office phone to like drill out 30 calls, right? And just make those calls, pump them out. And then I promise you, take off airplane mode and you can catch up everything. Like those 48 text messages you have, you'll catch them up in 15 minutes and you'll be fine. And no deals will fall through. Okay?
Mhm.
I can't say enough like how important laser like focus is if you want to finish the year strong and have a great year next year. I was at Tom Ferry's conference last month, and shout out to Tom, but he said one thing that just stuck with me that I keep thinking about over and over again was like um, everybody normally prioritizes things that make them feel good, but you need to prioritize things based on what drives results, right? And so reorder your prioritization and make it so that like everything you prioritize during that power hour is like all stuff that's going to drive your business, going to be money making activities, and then everything else will magically falls into place when you do that. But when you don't do that, you'll never have time to do it later. And so I think just learning how to be a like as you get more and more transactions going to maintain that power hour during your day, and you just feel good, you get more self-confidence from like sticking to your plan and getting that done. So I think that's huge. And then video, just create a system for video, because it's there's nothing that can scale quite like that can with the amount of people that you can reach and drive to your local market area. And if you want to copy every, like, you can look at my videos, they're not the greatest thing ever, but my YouTube account is Living in South Denver Metro, and it's at Landon with an I, LANDIN B Smith. But you're welcome to copy any video on there, and honestly, just look at people that are doing a great job with video, and then figure out what they're doing and rinse and repeat in your local market, and you'll do great.
Wow, I am just blown away by this group. First of all, Ben, I think you can share this with me, and many in our audience can share this, is that a lot of these strategies, I used a long time
Oh,
ago
yeah.
when I started in real estate. And now this group is taking those and making them relevant for today, utilizing technology, AI, system, structure, focus, and meeting their consumers and their business where they are today. So my goodness, much thanks to all of you, you sharing your insight, your ideas, Brianna, Landon, Aaron, Laura. I want to thank you so much. So as you finish this year out, know this: your intention, your structures, your systems are all in place so that you have steady outreach, so that you can finish the year strong and kick off 2025 with a bang. So on behalf of myself and Ben Fairfield and our audience, thank you so much for being with us today. It has been our pleasure to bring this to you. And again, thanks to our guests. See you soon.